say when they're the side dish, they're tolerable in small doses.
You know,
But
like
if they're the main dish,
if they build them as the entire movie, the minions suck. If the minions are just side characters, they're pretty good. Like just as like little like side additions. Like I said, the first two Despicable Me movies are about Gru, and like the other characters are just there to add flavor, which is fine. You know, it's like an entire movie. It's kind of like this. Like you guys know the Gremlins movies, right? With
Yeah.
you mean those? You mean the one that has you not beware of putting water or giving them fluids at night?
yeah, don't feed them after 12.
Oh
Don't
yeah,
get them
yeah, I
wet.
know.
Don't put them in light. Like all that shit. Okay, the Gremlins movies are great, not because like the creature special effects are great, but because of Phoebe Cates and Zach Galligan and like all these characters. They're great because of the interaction, the human characters' interaction with these creatures. That's what makes them great. If you had an entire movie just with Gizmo and the Gremlins, you'd be like, this is too much.
Yeah.
This is too much. And that's the problem with Minions, is that Minions, it's like, okay, come on, man. Really? This is too much. And that's where I kind of got to be like, I'm not feeling it. But anyway, I guess we got to talk about the elephant in the room in this chat not chat in this
Nintendo Direct.
in this cast, which is we got to grade this direct, and why we give it the grades. Who wants to go first? Who wants to grade it first?
I'll give it. I'll give it a grade. Like I said earlier, I'd probably give it a B minus. That Mario stuff kind of just dragged it down for me. I thought the casting was kind of weird. I don't know. I don't know why they don't use more professional voice actors from cartoons. Probably because it's a theatrical release and they need to sell it.
Yeah,
so you
but
gotta get
More
recognizable
like Hollywood,
names.
more like Hollywood actors trying to get some stage light.
Chris Pratt isn't selling it for me as Mario. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean I've
I
seen like I just don't see him as Mario. That's just so weird.
I mean, I personally,
you
But
two
I
are not
would.
alone. Most of the people I heard, I would say, most of the people I heard from said that the cast is solid except for one person,
It's
and
Chris
both of
Pratt.
you
Yeah,
aimed at the same one.
yeah. I mean, because the thing is that, like, I just like personally, me, I never really liked Charles Martinet as the voice of Mario. I would have preferred a more, um, someone whose voice sounded like their testicles had descended. You know, with some fucking bass
I was
in
gonna
their
say,
voice.
yeah.
you mean like the person that you mean the real Mario that's doing his guest voices?
I mean, like, okay, you can go on the internet, you can go on YouTube and find tons of like Mario
Mm.
themed fan made
Voices.
cartoons that have better voiceovers than Charles Martinet has done for Mario. And the thing is that Charles Martinet's done Wario, which he's great for, and Waluigi, which he's great for. His Mario voice is annoying to me. I personally would have
Yeah, I can see
preferred.
that.
I personally would have preferred a Mario that sounded like, "That's right, Luigi. We've got to go and save the princess in the Mushroom Kingdom." Like a Mario that like is just like tired of this shit. Like I would love to have a Mario that's just tired of this shit. You know?
I think that'd be a different game, but yeah,
No,
that could
no,
be
like
really cool.
for animated stuff. Cause I mean,
Oh yeah,
like I
yeah.
just like that. Like I would rather have they're doing a CGI animated movie. Like I don't want to hear Chris Pratt's voice because all I'm gonna hear is Chris Pratt voicing Mario. And if I'd heard Charles Martinet, I would have wanted to take a Q-tip and shove it in my ear and bust my eardrum because I fucking hate Charles Martinet's voice for Mario. Um, Over the years, I've just gotten tired of hearing that high pitched bullshit. Um, but yeah, I just would have preferred a more adult, like I'm a grown ass man. I've lived my life, and like, cause the cool thing about Mario is that he's just an ordinary dude doing this extraordinary shit, but he's an ordinary dude. You know, he and his brother are plumbers from Brooklyn. Like, they should sound like that, you know? Luigi, help me out. You know, like I don't want to hear this. Hey, it's hey. Oh, I don't want to hear that shit. And then you're gonna have Chris Pratt just not even trying. He's just gonna be doing the same fucking voice he does and everything else. Like, I don't want to hear that. And so,
that's yeah.
But
We gotta sell this movie because that's why we gotta use famous actors rather than professional voice actors that
we got to use Chris Pratt.
do this for a living.
I at least try to. Actually, I consider the movie a bonus, but not going to affect the overall rating of the direct. So for me, I
That was
say
part of the direct.
it's close to.
But if you
I mean,
feel
it's
that
a
way,
bonus.
You feel that way
Because
it's part of the direct.
Yeah, I get you.
It's in
I
the
get
direct.
You. But for
it
me,
wasn't.
You have to judge it as a whole and not just
pick
and choose what you liked.
I was trying to at least say that I consider the movie a bonus.
All right.
But
I mean, if you feel that way,
overall,
you feel that
I'd
way.
say I consider it kind of a B plus overall. Like there were some things I didn't expect at all, or even think about it left field. Bayonetta most of all.
I mean, they had to show Bayonetta.
They had to do something with that.
They had to show Bayonetta, or people were going to get tired of waiting. Even though I'll get into Bayonetta later on, but
hey, if anything, she at least voiced the opinions of what the people felt, and then kind of she at least gives us what we want. I mean, come on.
Yeah, they pull a Kit
dialogue spoke for
itself.
I'm
gonna say something about Bayonetta. I'm gonna say something about Bayonetta, and it's gonna piss some people off, but I don't really give a fuck because it's my podcast. I can say it. No one can cancel me on my own cast.
Let me guess. You don't like her new art style?
No. No, she looks great as she always does, but I'll get to it when I give my opinion. So here's my opinion. Overall, the Direct was a B. I think this was the best Direct Nintendo's done all year. It's better than their E3 Direct, which was like a C, low C for me. The only like, here's the thing. What made Nintendo's E3 Direct, like a lot of people think it was great, was the Metroid Dread Metroid 5 announcement. But if you took out the Metroid 5 announcement for Nintendo's E3 was dog shit. By Nintendo standards. Now, please don't cut me off before I finish explaining my stance. Thank you. By Nintendo standards, it is dog shit. Now, here's the thing, okay? Normally, Nintendo, like, okay, not every E3 Direct is gonna be like blow your asshole out. You know, you ate like 5 enchiladas with triple queso and a ton of beans. You can't expect that. It's like you can't expect every movie in a series to be great. Some are going to be better than others. But Nintendo typically has a pretty solid GPA when it comes to their directs. Like, you're going to be like low B, high B, high C. Like, you're never going to get like, man, that was terrible. Except for that year with Wii Music. Oh boy, that Wii Music. Now this year's E3 Direct wasn't Wii Music bad. But it, like, compared to what we had been getting, which were pretty good, like low B's, mid B's, it was just kind of dog shit. Except what raised it up was the Metroid announcement, because people just weren't expecting it. And that was a surprise for a lot of people. But in hindsight, like I said, if you took that out, and I know I just said you have to judge it as a whole. As a whole, it's like a C. But if you take out Metroid, that shit would have been like a D. It wouldn't have been Wii Music bad, because that was an F. That year is an F for Nintendo's presentations for E3. But it would have been kind of low. But overall, I think this Direct should have been Nintendo's E3 Direct. On my own personal stance. But aside from that, it was a solid B. I think the games they announced were all pretty interesting. Even the games that are multi-plats, it was interesting that Nintendo was talking about it. And the exclusives were just looked great. I mean, look, there's a new Kirby, Kirby game, and it's a 3D open world experience, which is what we should have gotten on the N64 instead of a dog shit Kirby 64. Yes, I'm saying Kirby 64 is a piece of shit, and I stand by that statement. Kirby 64 is terrible. Yeah, I stand by that. Kirby 64 is a terrible game.
And there's BS right there.
No. Okay,
It is.
Let me explain why.
For the time, it was good.
No, it wasn't even good for the time. And I'll explain why it wasn't good for the time. Go back and play Kirby 64 on your N64. Now, when you first start the game, it's really interesting. The pseudo 3D style, it's like Klonoa. Klonoa, the original Klonoa on the PS1 and Kirby 64 share a lot in common. They have that 2.5D thing where levels wrap around. You know, it's kind of like a throwback to the original Kirby, except it's done in 2.5D, true 2.5D, and not the tricks they used on the original Kirby on the NES. The problem with Kirby 64 is the fucking frame rate. I mean, the frame rate drops to like 15 frames, sometimes 10 frames per second. And you're trying to play the game and dodging attacks and trying to do stuff. And there are points in that game where the action gets hectic and this game can't keep up. It's fucking struggling. And I'm sorry. Like, for a game where reflexes matter, where if you take damage, you can lose your attack, you can use your special ability, and you're like trying to get certain things, you're trying to hold on to abilities to open up certain areas, to find certain MacGuffins so you can get the best ending of the game, that's a fucking problem. Okay? Kirby 64 is not that good. It's the best we had at the time, but it's not that good.
It's weird eye for that one. I haven't had lag. You have to... I'm serious. I have to give you that weird eye.
That game you're saying had lag.
It may have had
and a lot
lag,
of it.
but it didn't have that kind of lag. When's terrible. No, it didn't.
When's the last time you've played that game? Because there are times where I'll go back.
That game lags like a. I have the game as well, and that game lags like a motherfucker.
Oh,
It lags on the Wii on the Wii and Wii U Virtual Console. It lags on the original hardware. That game lags. That game, the frame rate is supposed to be 30. The frame rate drops to like 15, 18, 10.
Well, the thing is, right? There are old games, you know, I've gone back to, and were really, you know, games I hadn't played in years that I remember running a lot better than they did when I go back to them. It's like, yeah, this game's pretty laggy. So I'm just curious, when's the last time you played Kirby? 64, Jewel.
4 years back.
4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You played it on the original hardware or the Wii Virtual Console? Sorry, or Wii U Virtual Console. They're the same thing. Shit, fuck it.
No, it isn't. But if anything, 64.
On the original 64? Okay. I've played it on all three. I noticed that on the 64, the frame rate would drop to like 15, 16 in some areas when the action was heavy. Not consistently, not for a long period of time, but if your shit's hot and heavy, that's a problem. On the emulated version of Kirby 64 on the Wii Virtual Console, Wii U Virtual Console, lower than that, like 10, 12 frames per second. That is a problem in a platform. Now, I know Kirby's supposed to be, this is an easy platformer for anybody, which is true. If you just want to play a Kirby game and get to the end, yeah, you don't have to be a perfectionist. But everyone knows who plays Kirby games knows if you want to get the real ending and face the toughest boss, those games get like, you have to up your game. And it's really hard to do that when you're fucking playing the game and the frame rate's dropping and you're trying to dodge attacks and fight enemies and like absorb, like swallow abilities and spit it. Like, it's what the fuck, man.
It's funny that the only time that I ever really experienced any real frame rate that I remember would be at the final boss. He's a real a-hole.
Anytime you have a lot of enemies on the screen and there's a lot of shit going on, the frame rate drops in that game. Now, here's the thing. Like, I know some people are going to curse me out and be like, what are you talking about? You ain't no Kirby fan. Listen, motherfuckers. I am a huge Kirby fan. The original NES, the game on the Game Boy, the fucking Kirby Superstar, the Kirby games on the SNES. My personal favorite SNES Kirby game is actually Kirby Superstar, and it's DS upgrade Kirby Ultra Super Ultra Stars Ultra Superstar Super Ultra Star, whatever, the remaster, the remake that added some extra stuff. I like Kirby games, but I prefer if you don't have the technology to make the shit look great and like the gameplay suffering, then just kind of just stick with the cell shaded look. But that's neither here nor there. So yeah, they announced a Kirby game, which made me happy because I'm a Kirby fanboy. Yes, I am. And we finally get the 3D game we always wanted. They announced a direct for the final Smash Fighter, but I don't really give a fuck. I know some people do, but I don't. But I know a lot of people are excited about that.
Actually, I have to consider this funny. I have to consider it funny because they're throwing shade on Nintendo, on Nickelodeon.
Not really.
Considering if Last Fighter is getting announced the same day that Nickelodeon's Fighter is releasing.
I mean, I guess, but I mean, I don't really consider that shit.
And usually they announce...
You know what they say? Imitation is the best form of flattery. And, you know...
I get you, but I was about to say that announcing the Final Fighter, which is usually on the day that they release, or a few days after, that's a little bit of shade there.
I mean, it could be.
Imagine it.
It could be shade, but the joke's on the fuckers who play Smash Brothers, because I guarantee you, I'm buying Nickelodeon. I'm buying Nickelodeon All Star Smash, and I don't have to fucking pay for the online to play that game online. I don't have to pay a dime to play that online.
It's going on the PC, isn't it?
And the code in that game is rollback netcode, which means the online multiplayer is going to be better because of the rollback netcode. So, I mean, you know, the joke's on you if you're crowing about that shit. But anyway, so yeah, they announced that. That's cool. They announced. Let me look at my list of announcements for the Nintendo's the September 23rd. Was it the 20? No, 24th. No, the 23rd. September.
It was 23.
Yeah, September 23rd. Nintendo Direct announcements. I had this before, but I just. Okay, so they announced Animal Crossing. I don't really give a fuck. Does anyone care about Animal Crossing? Like, was anyone all a quiver? Was their buttocks a quivering? For
I still
more
play
Animal
it,
Crossing?
and I'm actually curious.
Well, okay, you're part of that audience that loves Animal Crossing. For me, the only Animal Crossing I really
I'm curious
love.
What it has.
Yeah,
I said I was curious of it, but so if anything, it's going to spark my interest a little.
Yeah, for me, the only Animal Crossing that I love is Animal Crossing on the
64?
GameCube. No, I love Animal Crossing on the GameCube because of all those games they included. There's 38 NES games included on disc. You know, that is fucking insane. I wish Nintendo had kept that up, but it's Nintendo. The other announcements were Nintendo finally, 5 years into the life cycle of the Switch, they're finally bringing N64 and Sega Genesis games.
People were excited about this, but I was just kind of like, what took you so long?
Yeah, I I mean, for me, I'm kind of like, what took you guys so long? Because here's the thing: the Wii U. I mean, the Wii. Within 18 months, no, within a year of the Wii's life cycle, they had N64 games on the Virtual Console, and I'm like, so you guys could get that shit done in a year with the Wii, but it took you 5 years with the Switch. It's a little odd.
And I mean, it makes me think that some of the things that
I'm thinking
the
it's
people I know what
more the
were saying,
legalese
it's like this console
than what
wasn't
we
really
have.
all that ready when it came out.
You know, I agree with you that there may have been some legalese going on forth, especially for third-party games. But let's not forget that a lot of the most storied and well-known N64 games are Nintendo first-party games, and that doesn't take a lot of effort to bring to their own fucking platform. So I just think that
That's the thing I was about to say. That I'm not thinking it's legalese on the third parties, but I'm thinking there's some legalese going on behind the scenes that somebody is saying that we shouldn't bring this out or we should. That's what I'm thinking.
I don't think that's the case. If it's your own shit, you don't have to do legalese because it's your own IP. It's like
that's the thing that's bugging me the most because I have a feeling that
that's a false excuse. That's a false dichotomy reasoning. Because that's not the case. It's like Microsoft. Microsoft owns Bethesda, so they can put all of Bethesda's library on Game Pass. They can do that because they fucking own it. They don't have to talk to anybody or wrangle things out or talk to someone, assuage someone's feelings. Fuck their feelings. They own it. They can do whatever. If they want to take those games and shove them up their ass, they can do that. They own it. So, you know, the legalese, so there's no excuse for it being 5 years for them to bring N64 to the online. There's no excuse for it.
That's what I was at least thinking because something is going on behind the scenes that we don't know that held them back from even doing that.
I think this,
at least as far as I feel it.
I think Nintendo's online is they're just kind of just throwing shit together haphazardly. That's what I think, because the Virtual Console was way more organized in how they brought shit out, and it was like almost every month they were coming out with new shit. The online Nintendo's online is a fucking sorry ass replacement for their Virtual Console. But that's neither here nor there. So they're finally bringing it back. They're finally bringing N64 and Sega Genesis games. And they're also bringing controllers because, you know what? They're right to do this because you cannot play N64 games without an N64 controller. It doesn't feel right. And I say this as someone who has a ton of N64 games on my Wii and physically on the N64. You cannot play those games without an N64 controller. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right playing Mario 64 with a conventional controller. It just doesn't feel right. Unfortunately, here in America, they gave us the 3-button controller. Why? I have no fucking idea. Whereas in Japan, they're getting the 6-button controller, which makes a lot more sense.
I was about to say, that's the USA was stuck with the 3-button controller for a long deep time. Yeah. And if you're a Street Fighter or Mortal
you were fucked.
Kombat fan,
yeah, you were fucked.
That controller was an annoyance.
Yeah. It's the reason why Super Nintendo was pretty much made for Street Fighter 2, because you had 6 buttons, whereas on the Sega Genesis you only had 3. You had to buy a 6-button controller in order to play that game properly on your Sega Genesis. Whereas on the Super Nintendo, you had your light, medium, hard punches, your light, medium, hard kicks. All the buttons you needed on your controller right out the fucking box. Because Sega's system came out 2 years earlier than the SNES, and it was built for that 3-button configuration that was on their arcade machines. So, that's just how it is. But anyway, yeah. So they're finally bringing it back. I'm a little like, why don't you have a 6-button controller in America? But fuck it.
How do you feel about the price increase?
I
in order to
mean,
play those games.
to be honest with you, I'm okay
We
with
don't know
that.
about that yet.
No, they said they're going to increase the price for the N64 and
Yeah.
Sega
I
Genesis
mean,
games. I'm okay with that. Like, I
we
would
don't know
prefer.
the full increase.
I'll keep it real. I would pay $50 a year if Nintendo's online services were better. I wouldn't mind
Yeah.
paying $50 a year. If Nintendo said, hey, yeah, we have our dog shit ass online library, but we're also bringing back the virtual console where you can buy these games and you can play them on your console any fucking time you feel. You don't have to do a digital handshake every 2 weeks as a form of online DRM so you can access your online library. I'd be okay paying $50, $60 a year. Hell, even $80, having access to all those features without the bullshit that the online library brings with its miserable lineup of games and just lack of diversity and shit. But you know, like I don't mind paying more for better service. That's just me. Like $20 is nice, but what do you get for your 20? You get something that's worse than when it was free.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not acceptable to me. Like I'd rather pay more and get at least something commensurate to what we had when we were free. But we got a worse service that we have to pay for. Why? You know, that's like what Sony did, except to a lesser degree. Because Sony was like, Sony's online service is trash, and then they went from charging $120 a year to like $180. I think it was some ridiculous amount. And I'm like, for this shit that goes out every 4 months, every 3 to 4 months, fuck. Seems like every 18 months to 2 years the shit gets hacked.
Yeah.
So yeah. You know, $20 a year for this kind of lackluster service, I just find to be a little too. I mean, they're like, we're raising the price. Good, maybe you'll have more shit on it. So yeah, I'm happy about that. I hope they'll bring back TurboGrafx 16 and Master System games, arcade games, because like I said, the Virtual Console was fucking brilliant. And it's a shame that they got rid of the Virtual Console and replaced it with an inferior replacement. But that's my own personal opinion. Triangle game codename Triangle Strategy. I tell you, that is a fucking terrible name
now
for a game.
called I was about to say it does have an official name now, but I think it's called Triangle Strategy only.
Yeah, they're still calling it Triangle Strategy. I'm like, that's a fucking terrible name. Why did you guys call it the Master Force or Tri-Hero or something? That Triangle Strategy sounds like
Say this.
No, go ahead.
The prototype name was okay, but calling it just Triangle Strategy like that makes me wonder who the heck is in the naming service in Square Enix, because that is worse than some of the stuff that we heard from other game consoles.
Triangle Strategy sounds like Triangle Strategy sounds like an English translation. Like someone wrote it in Japanese and they put it into Google Translates, and that's what the name came out. And I'm like, I mean, I could think of a better name. Call it Tri Crescendo. I mean, I know that's also the name of a video game company, of a video game developer, but fuck, that's better than Triangle Strategy. Shit.
Yeah, Triangle Strategy, that is such a dumb name.
That is such a lame sounding name. But the game looks pretty good.
Lazy.
For such a lame name, the game looks great. If it just had a cool name to go with this great look. I
think it's one of those situations where the name of the game is an afterthought because they had these interesting game systems and all these interesting mechanics and the story to write. They were probably like, once they had all that stuff figured out, it's like, what should we name it? I guess we should name it Triangle Strategy.
Yeah, call it Triangle Strategy. I'm like, fuck.
We don't really have a name for this.
That is a sorry ass name. That's all I'm saying. Okay, it's a sorry ass name.
I said, whoever named that is really needing to be replaced.
Let me put it this way, okay? If I was a teacher, okay? If I was a teacher, and I have taught classes, and I was giving out, like, I was like, okay, so what's the title of your paper? and someone just didn't show me a rough draft, didn't show me an outline, and they just told me the title of their paper was Triangle Strategy, I would say you're bullshitting me. You haven't done shit. That's what I would say. But fortunately, there's a demo out for the game. They had feedback for the demo. We've seen footage of gameplay. This game looks like the Final Fantasy Tactics we always wanted, but we never got because Square Enix just loves sucking on that Final Fantasy dick.
And even then, they have Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced, and the Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced 2.
Yeah, but they never pushed the Final Fantasy Tactics franchise like they do the mainline series. Like, at least Nintendo will try and give the push to different
the thing that
games.
bugs me the most.
And Capcom will give the push to different games.
Unless I was going to make the joke that not of your fighting game. Not of your fighting game.
If you aren't Street Fighter, yeah, but Street Fighter gets a push. Resident Evil gets a push. Monster Hunter gets a push. Like, they push shit. Like Square Enix, if it's not Final Fantasy, they don't give a fuck. And I'm like, you guys are sitting on all these fucking IPs and you ain't doing shit with them. What the fuck? Anyway, so they finally announced the casting for the Mario movie.
Yeah, and if you heard us already, then you probably can already tell where we're rolling with some of this. For me, I'm basically laughing my rear end off, but I have to agree with the audience on this one. Your cast is solid, but why Mario? Why did you have to shaft Mario a little here?
Yeah, I'm cool. I'm cool with Charlie Day as Luigi. I'm cool with Jack Black as Bowser. I'm cool with Anya Taylor-Joy as Peach. But Chris Pratt as Mario, I'm like, that turns me off to the entire fucking movie. Because I don't like Chris Pratt. I'm not a fan.
It makes me wonder whose idea was this?
It probably was Illumination. They were like, look, Illumination is a Universal Studios studio. It's their animation studio. Chris Pratt has a relationship with Universal Studios because of Jurassic Park, the new Jurassic Park, which is fucking terrible. So they were like, hey, you want to be in this? And they're like, well, you're bankable, so we'll get you. And I'm like, there were so many. I was
going to make the joke that, oh God.
There were so many better voice actors who could have taken that role than Chris Pratt.
There was even the voice actor for the Mario Brothers.
Well, I mean, I don't really like Charles Martinet, so I mean, he's in it. Really? But I don't like his voice. I don't like Charles Martinet as the voice of Mario and Luigi. I like his Wario voice, but I don't like his Mario and Luigi. I'm sorry, I just don't like it. Okay, I never liked Charles Martinet as the voice of Mario and Luigi. I never liked Charles Martinet as the voice of Mario and Luigi. I never did. Never. Even when they first announced it on the N64, I've never liked Charles Martinet as the voice of Mario and Luigi. Okay? There. I said it. Okay? Mostly because it's a childhood thing. I grew up watching the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, and I like the adult sound where Mario sounds like a fucking grown-ass man whose testicles descended. Okay? I'm sorry. I like characters who sound like adults. Okay? And Mario doesn't sound like an adult when Charles Martinet does the voice. It sounds ridiculous. Okay? And I don't like that. But some people do.
I think the went out on us.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there's some people in the fandom, in the Mario fandom, who don't like Charles Martinet as the voice of Mario. But, you know.
I was saying in this group, I think you're the odd one out.
I'm probably in the... Like, I give a fuck. I'm a black man in America. I'm used to being a minority. Anyway, Bayonetta 3 resurfaces with a gameplay trailer. And it looks great. It looks... the gameplay looks great. She even addresses
the fact that she's late.
Yeah. The gameplay looks great. There's only one flaw. One flaw with the game. One flaw. The game looks like... No, the game looks like it was smeared, like it was shot on a camera with a smear of Vaseline across the lens.
Yeah, it did.
It looks like shit.
Yeah.
Now the gameplay is probably going to be solid. They probably had to graphically downgrade that game so that it could run at 60 frames per second. I guarantee that's what they probably had to do. They probably had to downgrade the graphics. It's probably running 720p because you can't play a Bayonetta game. Like you had a choice. They probably had a choice when they're developing. It's like, okay, this hardware was top of the line 7 years ago, and we could either have this game be 1080p, and like the frames dropping below 30, or we can go 720p and downgrade the models, the textures and everything, and get it going 60. But here's the thing, Bayonetta is an action game. You need a solid frame rate, but the Switch is really, like, there are games on the Switch that there's a lot of open world, like, really ambitious games on the Switch that fucking struggle to run. And you can't have that with a Bayonetta game. You can't. You cannot have a game struggling and frames dipping like an action game like that where you need quick twitch reflexes and all that shit. You can't do it. So the game kind of ugly, but I'm going to get
the Wonderful 101 might be... I was going to say, the Wonderful 101 is probably the closest thing to what Bayonetta is going to get.
Well, the Wonderful 101 was optimized for the Switch, and it looked great. Even though, like, they splurged on the character models, but, like, everything was pulled out. They did a lot of hardware tricks. I think that the Switch on a technical level, even though it's drawing less power for performance, I think, like, once you look at the actual hardware, it's actually less capable than the Wii U. That's what I'm saying. I know some people are going to get angry at me when they hear that, but I'm just saying it. Because there are games that ran... There's things that the Wii U were doing relatively easily that the Switch struggles with. So, I'm just going to say that. So, yeah, I think that Bayonetta 3, they had to downgrade that game to get it to run, to get the performance at a solid, locked state on the Switch. And I'm okay with that because, like I said, like, Bayonetta is a game where you need stable performance. Because it's an action game. Like if the game stutters, if the frame rate drops, and you're in a battle of your, you can die if the hardware can't keep up with what's going on in the software, and they had to make that choice. It's a shame that they had to make that choice because the Switch, it's just it's old hardware. I mean, but that's Nintendo's philosophy. I mean, that's every console's philosophy. But the Switch came out first, and they were using old shit that was old before it came out. So that was really old. Like, they were using shit, like I said, that was top of the line 7 years ago. And the Switch came out 4.5, 5 years ago. So, like, it was struggling with games then. So... And game develop, like, the games are going to get more advanced, not less advanced. Which is why some of the other games they announced were, like, cloud-based games. Because the hardware just can't handle it.
Yeah.
It can't handle it natively. It has to be streamed. So, that's the price you pay for having old-ass hardware nowadays. Now, back in the day, they would optimize it. They would make a version for the system. It's not like that anymore. That has gone out the door. Now they just stream the shit using the power of the cloud.
Yeah, because it costs too much. Because it costs way too much to make one version of the game.
Yeah.
Expect them to retool the game and make it for...
Yeah, who the fuck you think you are? We're gonna make something special just for you? You sorry bastard. Anyway, so yeah, Bayonetta 3 looks like shit. It's probably gonna play really well, but it looks like Platinum had to downgrade a lot of shit to get it to run, to get the performance to run really well. And I'm okay with that. Like I said, because it's an action game. With action games, I'd rather have good performance versus great graphics. You were gonna say something, Kenoshi?
I was gonna. I was gonna say, yeah, it did look pretty blurry when I first saw it. Like, yeah, this is I mean, we'll see what happens. A few months from now, a year out next year when they show it.
I mean, they're probably going to polish it up, but don't expect too much on the Switch. That's all I'm saying.
Don't expect.
Don't expect too much. Don't expect too much. But anyway, so then they announced Disco Elysium. So for those of you who only have a Switch, you can finally play one of the best RPGs released last year. Disco Elysium. It's a really good fucking game. It's an RPG. It's good. Splatoon 3. What?
Weird one, but yeah.
I mean,
I was saying it's a weird one in a sense, but
most of the computer RPGs are weird, but that's what makes them great. They can take more chances than typical JRPGs, which have weeaboo and that fucked up art style that I'm fucking tired of seeing. Anyway, so then they showed off Splatoon 3. They showed off some of the single player stuff, which is cool. Some of the new weapons. I like that mech thing that special that one of the weapons has.
Mech, yeah.
It looks pretty cool. Too bad I'm not going to get this game, but it looks cool.
What game is this?
Splatoon 3.
Splatoon 3.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Splatoon 3. Splatoon 3. I might get Splatoon 3 once it comes to the next console, because I'm thinking this is going to be a cross-generation game. Like, they'll probably release it again for Nintendo's next console. But that's my own.
Did they say when it's coming out next year?
Or is it? But
it didn't. It didn't have a release date.
Yeah,
I'm saying that right now before anybody else says it.
I think it's probably going to be next year, either next year holiday or the year after next, like late spring, like their end of quarter game that comes out in March. April. The games that game that Nintendo releases that makes their fiscal year end books look great. They tend to drop. Yeah, I think that's gonna.
That might be one of them.
I don't think it's gonna be next year. I'll think it's the year after next. Because Splatoon 3. Like, I think Splatoon 3 will be like one of their fair weather games for the Switch. Because by that point, the Switch will have been on the market for like 7 years, and I think it'll be time for the new hardware. So I think it'll be like a cross-generation game probably. Anyway, but that's supposition. That's shameless supposition, and I have no evidence of that. Anyway, the next game they announced was the Castlevania Advance Collection coming to the Switch and other platforms. I bought it on Steam.
And I'm actually interested because there's a few games that I actually think that might be worth it.
Yeah, I bought it on Steam for $17.99. On Switch, it was like $19.99. But anyway, it's great. I have it. It has 4 games on it. It has Circle of the Moon, Harmony of Dissonance, Aria of Sorrow, and Rondo of Blood, aka Dracula X. But it's the TurboGrafx 16, TurboGrafx CD version. So it's that version that you could save in, that had all the stages, the great music. So it's totally worth getting. And for $20, yeah, because if you want the physical version of Rondo of Blood, aka Dracula X, it's like hundreds of dollars. So getting it for $20 for all those games, it's a steal. Because if you wanted them physical, you'd spend way more than $20. So we already talked about N64 and Sega Genesis games coming online, but they're upping the price on the online, which I'm okay with. Some people, I don't want to pay that. I'm like, if you add more shit to your online, good.
I think the real down point for me would be the Legend of Zelda, Hyrule game.
Yeah,
I like those Muso games, huh?
Yeah, I don't like Muso games.
I don't either.
That's a real down point.
I picked it up because it was, Breath of the Wild, but
yeah,
I only played it a little bit. I haven't really played it that much.
The issue for me is that I'm not wild about Breath of the Wild. Like, the more I played Breath of the Wild, the less I liked it. So I was like, I don't really want to play this again.
Yeah, you're definitely not the first person I've heard say that.
Yeah.
I'm not a Mushu fan either.
So I damn sure didn't want to play a spin-off of Breath of the Wild. I mean, because the thing that got me was like, they're like, it's a prequel to Breath of the Wild. I'm like, why the fuck would I want to play a prequel where nothing I'm going to do matters to the end game? Link's still going to take an ass whooping that's going to put his ass in a coma. which is
It's not
pretty
even
bad.
really it's not even really a prequel.
It's an alternate. It's an alternate.
Yeah,
It's an alternate reality thing. But basically, they're like, yeah, it's a prequel. I'm like, y'all could have done anything with the Legend of Zelda, and you do a fucking prequel to Breath of the Wild, a game that I really don't like, and I'm like, I couldn't deal with it.
I mean, I get it. Breath of the Wild sold a lot. I mean, it
Yeah,
outsold the Switch when it first came out. So
Yeah.
it's
that's
just
the
like,
thing
well,
that bugs me the most. That this is
let's
still a
get more money
thing.
off of this property.
If
Yeah.
it's one thing that I'm not a fan of 3D Zelda games, but hearing a Mushu game based off that,
No, I mean, I like all the
it
Zeldas.
kind of just downplays me.
I like most of the I like most of the Zeldas, the 2D and the 3D Zeldas. I just don't like Breath of the Wild. I think that there's too many of the core gameplay elements that are like core to the most of the Legend of Zeldas that are absent in Breath of the Wild that I can't let it go. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you don't really have dungeons. You don't really have tools. You fucking have weapons breaking in the middle of a fight. Um like your horses are fucking meaningless in the game because you have a hang glider. If you have a hang glider, why the fuck would you need a horse? Um, like it's just a lot of issues with that game where I'm just like, I'm not enjoying this. But that's just me. Chocobo GP. It's basically Mario Kart, but with
It's
Final
a.
Fantasy.
I was about to say I got this game for the PlayStation 1. It's
You mean a
it's
previous
not bad.
iteration of the
So
game,
if
not the same thing.
yeah, so seeing the evolution of it actually got me curious about it.
Yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing. I want to play a kart racer game, but I'm fucking tired of Mario Kart. Like, if I have to see Mario Kart again, I'm gonna tear my hair out. Even though I just cut my
Do
hair
something
today.
new with Mario Kart. Like Double Dash was a pretty decent departure for what they were doing with
Oh
the.
yeah, oh yeah. It had
But
a
they
story
didn't. They
mode.
haven't. Yeah, they.
You
They
know.
haven't really done anything new.
Yeah, I mean, they're like, oh, we've got like hovercraft. We've got you can go underwater. That was in Mario Kart Wii, where you could go underwater and things kind of
You
transformed
got
a little
bikes
bit.
and hovercrafts, and it's like okay,
You can hover.
whatever.
It's anti-grav thing. I'm like, it's just.
Mario Kart Double Dash is well received. Why won't they? Why can't we have a sequel?
Yeah, or just bring that mechanic back and have a single player, whatever. But anyway, yeah. Personally, I would rather have a new Diddy Kong Racing than another Mario Kart because I'm tired of Mario Kart. I really am.
Even that Sonic game, Sonic Racing Transformed.
Yeah, that was great.
Mario Kart.
Because the fucking tracks transformed after a point, and new shit would come out. That was cool. No, I didn't get into that. It's just,
you can't get cool stuff like that.
we just it's Mario Kart. Yay, Mario Kart. Then they announced. So yeah, I'm looking forward. That's why I'm looking forward to Chocobo GP and Nickelodeon All Stars Brawl. I'm looking for. I'm looking for. I'm looking. I've looked. I'm looking more forward to Nickelodeon All Stars Brawl than I am to Smash Brothers. Mostly because like I really don't give a fuck about any of the characters that they keep on announcing for Smash Brothers now. Like when they added Cloud and Sephiroth, I was like, I don't give a fuck about, because neither of these characters fucking earned the right to be on this in this game. But we know what happened. Square Enix cut Nintendo a fat check and probably signed a contract saying we'd bring some of our games over to the Switch. And that's probably why Cloud and Sephiroth appeared in that game. But they didn't earn the right to be there. So, if they don't give a fuck about the prestige of their game, I don't either.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll go play something else. So then we have Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and I'm going to be honest, I'm quite happy about this. We finally get a 3D take on the Kirby formula, and it looks fucking great.
It looks good.
Yeah, it looks great.
And not the Blowout version either.
What do you mean the Blowout version? I don't.
Remember the mini game that became a full price game? That became a full price mini game of sorts. Kirby's Blowout. that they if
No.
you're a 3DS player, then
Oh,
you
you mean
probably
that game
then you
that
probably would get
you
it.
mean that game that was like pseudo 3D, pseudo open world, but it was really like you're moving square by square, and it was like it had that kind of shitty D-pad control, like direct 3D instead of like actual like real freeform 3D. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I remember that game, but I wasn't really thinking of that.
I I might need to um I s- I know which game that I was talking about, and you are close. It's just that I think that I was saying that they finally made it 3D Kirby without being a real without going into the Blowout direction, which was just a mini game that had you suck up. You get no powers, but you have to spit out and try to make a combo of all
Yeah,
the
yeah, I
hits that
remember
you
that
can
game.
make with it.
Yeah, I remember that game. I wasn't very interested in that game. So like, yeah, this isn't what we. But here's the thing. Typically speaking,
It
when we
is.
get
It was close to it,
is
Red.
not really. But
I said close.
here's the thing. Normally, when we get a Kirby game, it's normally towards the end of that console's life cycle. And at this point, we're getting to the near the like a little bit past the 5 year mark for the Switch. So I think maybe we have another 18 months, 2 years with this. But I'm okay with that because really it's when you get like the most experimental fuck it games on a Nintendo console towards the end of its life cycle. So I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Like I said, I'm a
Okay.
huge Kirby fan, except for like 2 games in the series, the mainline series. So
Yeah,
the fact
and
that it's finally going 3D, yeah.
I found out it was yeah, and I just got the name fully. It's Kirby's Blowout Blast.
Yeah, I remember that game. I didn't like it. They announced that they're having an Animal Crossing direct. I mean, eh. Um,
You like Animal Crossing?
yeah, I don't like Animal Crossing except for the one for the GameCube. So I'm not really, not really. No fucks were given for me. um, then they showed off Monster Hunter Rise. Now, am I the only one before they showed off that it was Monster Hunter that I was like, oh man, they're making a new Breath of Fire because they had like a dragon type. I was like, wow, this looks like a pretty cool Breath of Fire. And then they were like, and then I was like, wait a second, that's one of those fucking monsters from Monster Hunter. This is Monster Hunter. And then they announced, and then the title placard came. I'm like, fuck, it's Monster Hunter.
My best laugh since I have a feeling that people were going to confuse this for another game, and I was so right.
No, well, I don't think anyone confused it. I think the only reason I thought Breath of Fire was because they haven't done fuck all with Breath of Fire for a while, and it would be cool to get a new Breath of Fire. But it's Capcom. Why the fuck would I think they do something that I'd like?
um, there is likely to do that is they're likely to try to release something other than Street Fighter and Marvel versus and something like Marvel versus Capcom. Well,
um,
release other fighting games other than those two.
we would probably get a new Marvel vs. Capcom before we get a new Breath of Fire. Just to be honest. Because I think Capcom has been talking with someone to do a re-release of Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And if they did, I'd buy it. Because Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is a good fucking game. So why would I not want to play that again? I mean, if a game's good, it's worth playing again. Square Enix announced a new card-based RPG. Am I the only one who, when I first saw the cards, I'm like, oh man, they're bringing back Bait and Katos. But then they said Square Enix. I'm like, it's probably some shit from Square Enix. And then it's the voice of cards, the Isle of Dragon Roars. It's being made by Yoko Taro and Yosuke Saito. So, they also announced, what else did they announce? Dying Light 2, you get the Cloud Edition, where you can play with the power of the cloud! The power of the
Yeah.
cloud. They're finally using the power of the cloud for something other than a catchphrase.
Gee.
Hey,
Yeah.
but hey, the Switch can use the power of the cloud too.
Yeah.
The power of the cloud. So Nintendo showed off the N64 games they will be initially bringing to the thing. So they're gonna have Super Mario 64, obviously, Mario Kart 64. Sorry, I hate that game. Star Fox 64. I mean, it's solid. Yoshi's Story. I hate that game too. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Now, I like The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, but I have played it so much that I'm just tired of it. Because for a long time, that was like one of two. Like, I had Mario 64 and Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And I played those two games so much that now I'm fucking tired of them. Winback, which is actually a really good third-person shooter. Mario Tennis, Dr. Mario 64, and Sin and Punishment.
I guess I was a kid, but I enjoyed Mario Tennis.
I mean, I always preferred the handheld ones because they were more RPG, whereas Mario Tennis on the consoles were more arcadey. But that's just me. Yeah. I'm an RPG fanboy. So out of 9 games, to me, there's like 2 that are interesting, which is Winback and Sin and Punishment. Because you can't go wrong with Sin and Punishment. And Winback, which, like I said, is a really good astonishingly good third-person shooter. Then they showed the list of Sega Genesis games they'll be bringing. Most of them, I'm kind of
underwhelmed.
I mean, Ristar is pretty good. Phantasy Star 4, arguably the best RPG on the Sega Genesis, but that's not a really long list. Strider, the Sega Genesis version of Strider. Streets of Rage 2. Golden Axe, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Shinobi 3, Shining Force, Ristar. I mean, there's some good games here, but I'm seeing the ominous missing. Like, where's Sonic the Hedgehog 1? Where's Sonic the Hedgehog 3? Where's Echo the Dolphin 2, Fight for the Future? Where's Golden Axe 2? Where's Golden Axe 3? Where's Streets of Rage 1? Where's Streets of Rage 3? It's like there could be more on here. It's kind of like this is a nice sample, but there should be more.
I'm not going to deny that's true.
So, yeah. So, like I said, but overall, this was a pretty good direct. Like I said, I give it a B. Judging it just for itself, it's a solid B. As a matter of fact, I would have preferred Nintendo take this direct and switch it with the E3 direct, and this would have been a better E3 direct to me. But anyway, yeah, overall, it's pretty good. I give it a B, 2 thumbs up.
So it's a B overall from all 3 of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, B minus, but that's still a B. So there you go. Overall, it's a solid B. You know. But anyway, let's keep it moving with some of the other topics we have. Not a lot. And they also showed off the ActRaiser Renaissance. And I bought that game on Steam, and it's actually pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good. Yeah. The art style.
Who made that game?
I have no idea, but I mean, like, we've been saying it for years. ActRaiser was a really good game, and Square Enix should re-release it or do like a remaster. And here they are. It's a little cheap feeling, but overall, it's a pretty good game. It has rearranged Yuzo Koshiro tracks. I prefer the original, so I like switched it from the Renaissance rearranged version to the classic.
Yeah. The original?
Yeah, I don't, I'm an old school Yuzo Koshiro person. I'm not like this, we can change it. Not everything needs to be changed. Stop doing that.
I was about to say, are the newer ones good at least?
I mean, they're okay, but if I'm playing ActRaiser, I want to hear the original music because it's better, in my opinion. that nostalgia kicks in.
I
Like
get you. I'm just.
if you didn't play the original ActRaiser, you probably won't care. But I remember playing the original ActRaiser,
I heard the
and
music. It's just that I was just thinking that if anything, I thought the new music would make it better. You get me, right? Yeah,
typically,
you're not
typically,
into it.
typically speaking, for me, typically speaking, this is just my own personal opinion. Typically speaking, for me, when a artist rearranges or re-records their music, I like the original recording, not the re-recording, because like a lot of the times it sounds like the people re-recording it, they're older, they have different studio musicians doing the music, and it just doesn't sound like it did back in the day. Case in point, like I'm an old school R&B soul music person. A lot of those people don't own their music, so they re-record it in order to have a version that they own. But you're not going to be able to imitate those in-house studio musicians who were just on point with these new people, and it just doesn't sound as good as the old shit. But that's just me. Sometimes a lot of people like the newer version compared to the old version, but I'm not one of those people. I prefer the original cut versus the newer rearranged versions of things. Let's get to some of these rumors. Crystal Dynamics, well, not a rumor, it's been confirmed. Crystal Dynamics, the team that originally made Tomb Raider, is teaming up with the Initiative for a reboot of Perfect Dark. Yeah.
I thought those. I know you didn't like those Tomb Raider games, but I thought they were okay.
No. Crystal Dynamics made the original Tomb Raider, not those shitty remakes.
Oh.
No, the original, the ones that I like, the one that had built like a brick shithouse Lara Croft, and puzzles, and not the let's kill this preteen looking skinny athletic gymnast built chick over in horrific ways over and over again, until you figure out how to dodge the instant death traps.
I was gonna make the joke that there's a difference between the Last of Us Lara Croft and the original Lara Croft.
Yeah, I don't really like the new. I mean, the new games, are called Tomb Raider, but they really aren't Tomb Raider. It's like its own thing. I think they just took the Tomb Raider title and just put it on the game, because the new Lara Croft really doesn't, like, the gameplay isn't anywhere close to what you had in the good Crystal Dynamics Tomb Raider games.
It plays more like Uncharted.
Yeah, and I don't really like Uncharted, so I'm not like, yeah, this is great, guys. I'm like, I don't really want to play this. Like, I like my Uncharted. I like my Tomb Raider where it was mostly a lot of puzzle solving and a little bit of combat. Whereas the new Tomb Raider is mostly combat and a little bit of puzzle solving. And I mean, the whole fucking point of Tomb Raider was that she's like, Lara Croft is this lady with a PhD, an archaeologist who's going out finding all this cool shit. She's basically female Indiana Jones. And like, that's completely lost in the new Tomb Raider games to me. I know some people like them, but I don't really want to, like, don't call the shit Tomb Raider. Make a new IP. But they didn't want to do that. They wanted to put Tomb Raider on it so people would get attached to it and say, oh, it's Tomb Raider. It's not Tomb Raider. But anyway, so yeah, they're teaming up with the Initiative for the reboot of Perfect Dark. Hopefully it'll be better than Perfect Dark Zero, because that was bullshit.
Oh boy.
Yeah, Perfect Dark Zero was terrible. It was terrible. So the fact that they're making a new one, I'm just like, I mean, it can't be worse than Perfect Dark Zero, so it'll probably be good. Knock on wood. I mean, really, if they can basically add a decent amount of combat to the original, like, OG Tomb Raider format, but with Perfect Dark, I'd be cool with it. I mean, really, I wish they would give it to Team 17 and Platonic, but because a lot of those are the original people who worked at Rare. But I mean, Rare now is not what Rare used to be, so I don't trust it. So we're gonna get a game that's gonna be called Perfect Dark, but it's probably not gonna be Perfect Dark. um, so next we have well, we already talked about ActRaiser. We talked about Chris Pratt being the voice of Mario. And finally, we have Star Wars needs more non-human heroes. So this was an article from
This
Polygon.
This one, sadly, okay. I was about to say that I thought it was going to be IGN to worry about. Oh boy.
No, but I mean, it doesn't matter who says it. It's a valid point.
I was going to say that depending on who's bending it, you might want to be careful about it. But they do make a point. That so far most of the people that we see at Star Wars, as far as leads and who we usually follow in most of the movies, games, and so on, I think.
Yeah.
They've all been mostly human-like.
Yeah. I mean, they might not be humans. They might be humans that just look like, I mean, aliens that look like humans. But it's just like, you have this massive universe and you keep on, like, we keep on going to Tatooine. We keep on going to Hoth. We keep on going to Coruscant. We keep on going to Ilix. Like, it's the same. Like, you have this massive galaxy and you keep on going to the same 5 or 6 planets. It's like, fuck, you know. It's like, think bigger. Kenoshi, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind more characters that weren't human. Didn't the cartoons do that a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have this massive universe and they just keep on going with the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, it gets really fucking old and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the complete lack of imagination and the same shit over and over again. I can't deal with it. Especially in the games. Like, I like Jedi Fallen Order. I really do. But man, that game would have been so much better if Cal Kestis was an alien. Right? Like, that would have been such a more interesting game if Cal Kestis was an alien. But, you know, we can't have aliens in Star Wars because it has to be characters that people can relate to. I'm like, you have this massive galaxy and the same shit over and over again.
It's lazy because it's like, people have created, otherworldly creatures that people have related to or connected with over the years, and all sorts of different types of media. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why with Star Wars they just stick like, I was thinking like, why not like not only an alien but somebody who's also like part mech too, because it'd be interesting to see what they could do with the Force and other technology besides the lightsaber.
Yeah, but we don't get that. Instead, we just continuously get the same regurgitated. We go to the same planets, the same place. It's like, damn, you guys, you have this massive universe and you don't add anything new to it. It gets kind of old.
And we got the extended universe of boots, and
Well, they threw
used.
they threw out the extended universe. That was the one good thing about the extended universe, is that they did have different characters, different races. They added different stuff to it. That got thrown out with the new people in charge because they didn't want to pay those people their money for using their
IP.
IP. Yeah. So, you know,
Yeah.
tis what it is, what it is, what it is. But yeah, I really wish that Star Wars had used more non-human characters, because like I said, you have this, like, okay, they have like, you watch the movies and they have some really interesting aliens in the movies and in the extended stuff like Clone Wars and the animated Clone Wars. Like
Yes.
you have the Mon Calamari, like Admiral Akbar. You have the Twi'leks. You have whatever the fuck Ahsoka is. You have the the Zabraks, like Darth Maul. They're good aligned Zabraks as well. You have the Cathar. You have the Silurians, which, for those of you, you're like, who the fuck are the Silurians? Remember Return of the Jedi? Remember when Lando Calrissian is flying the Millennium Falcon into the second Death Star? His co-pilot, that dude with the eye ridges and the ear ridges, that was a Silurian. His name was Nien Nub. They come from a planet that is pitch dark with a massive cloud cover, and it's always dark. So they have really good eyesight and really good hearing. But anyway, it's like, you have this massive universe with all this cool shit, and you guys just always humans. Why is it always humans? It's annoying. But maybe it'll get better. I don't know. You guys have anything else to add before we get to the final part of the podcast, which is nominating our asshole of the week?
Just one thing. Basically, with which would you want to see more light side or dark side non-human characters?
Both.
Both is good.
Both. I would like to see. No, go ahead.
I was about to say, I think we memed for that one, because even though I'm more of a light sider, I like to know about more of the dark and light side non-human characters a little.
I mean, they're both interesting. Like, the true Sith are a dark side species. They're interesting. Yoda is a light side species. He's interesting. Don't over explain shit. Just introduce characters. The Wookiees are interesting. Who else is interesting? The Cathar, interesting. Like I said, Admiral Akbar is interesting. Like, the aliens are interesting. Just always having humans just gets boring. It's like, they're humans on planet Earth. Why the fuck would I want to see more of that? You have, like I said, you have this massive universe, and they don't utilize it. I mean, think about it. In the original trilogy, in the first movie, who was the most interesting characters in that film? Darth Vader, Chewbacca. Those were the most interesting characters in that film. Darth Vader, because he looked badass as fuck, and Chewbacca, because he's this giant fucking monster that was sentient and could do shit. In the second movie, it was all about Yoda, man. Yoda made that. If you take Yoda out of Empire Strikes Back, the movie falls apart. And Yoda's an alien.
Yeah.
The only Star Wars film where taking an alien out makes the movie better is Phantom Menace with Jar Jar Binks. If they took out Jar Jar Binks, even though that movie has other problems, but Jar Jar Binks is really one of them.
I'd take Jar Jar Binks over those little things that they tried to promote on the Disney sequel trilogy.
No, there's a lot of issues with that movie. There's a lot of issues. There's a lot of issues with Phantom Menace. Like the fact that you have this like 8-year-old boy trying to hit on this 16, 17-year-old girl, which is just ugh.
You're overreaching there.
No.
I was talking about that boy trying to overreach.
No, I don't mean I'm overreaching.
You get what I'm saying,
there.
right?
I mean literally in George Lucas's script notes, when he was planning out the Phantom Menace, his big thing was he wanted to have a like in almost all his films, he wants to have an illicit romance between someone older and younger. Like in the original Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, he wanted to have, like, it's hinted at but not really gone over, that Indiana Jones, when he's like in his like between 18 to 21, is supposed to have had this illicit romance with his professor's daughter, Marion. Marion's supposed to be like 11, 12 years old when that happens. That's why she slaps him, because he like, I can't do this shit, and he's like, you're too young for me. That was like George Lucas, like Steven Spielberg's like, you can't put this in the film, and they wrote it to make it ambiguous, but that's what he wanted to do. And when he had free reign with Phantom Menace, he did it in Phantom Menace with Anakin and Padme. He's got a fucking 8-year-old boy hitting on a 16-year-old girl, which is just fucking disgusting. Not to mention unrealistic, because ain't no 16-year-old girl gonna go out with an 8-year-old boy. That shit ain't happening.
BRB, I need to reboot my head.
Yeah. Anyway, Star Wars needs to have more non-human heroes. I agree. I know some people are gonna disagree, but I don't give a shit, because come on, you have this massive universe and they keep on using the same shit over and over again. Come on. They can do better than this. But with that being said, time to nominate our a-hole of the week. So who wants to go first? Kadoshi, you want to go first?
No, I don't have one this week.
All right.
I got two choices, and something tells me one of them is automatic.
Okay, go ahead.
I will say this. Looks like Apple's getting their comeuppance by Europe. I don't know if it was this week or last week, but
oh, you mean the a universal? Everyone has to use the same standardized charger.
Yeah, I hate the Lightning port. Absolutely hate it. Don't know why they keep using it.
Because even they can charge you for
it. Keep using it.
Because they can charge you for
it.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously.
It's the reason why they took away the physical port for your iPhone, for the new iPhone. So you can't use a generic earphones. You got to use their earphones.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that, but
okay,
it's just annoying.
Okay, this is going to be weird now.
Now they're gonna have to be forced to use USB-C. So
yeah. But I mean, that's all of them. They're all gonna have to use standardized instead of proprietary ports, and I'm okay with that because
great.
Yeah, that's annoying.
Now we got a hard choice. Thank you, guys. It's either Apple with their a-hole trick of trying to make their things unique. Epic for trying to make Apple look good with their lawsuit, or Activision Blizzard with another scandal. How fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Activision Blizzard because Apple's just greedy, but they've always been greedy. Like, we know Apple has been greedy for years. It's in their DNA. Like, people are like, I can't believe Apple's greedy. Really? What bed have you been hiding under? What rock have you been hiding under that you don't
Good point.
think Apple
I was about
greedy?
to say that this is going to be a weird ranking for me, but Apple takes third place in this race. Epic is second, which is weird considering how it's turning out. And Activision Blizzard takes the gold.
Yeah, I don't think Apple or Epic should be on the list because neither of them are like, they're just companies being greedy.
I was saying
that's what companies do.
I was saying, yeah, I was gonna say Epic's on silver because of they're trying to fight Apple of all things.
Yeah, but they brought it on themselves. People are getting
yeah,
people are getting
That's
mad.
the thing I was about to say, that that Epic is still fighting when they know they got their orbs kicked.
Yeah, people are getting mad about it. I'm like, look, listen, Epic started shit. And they punked out Steam when they did the same thing. Because Valve, look, here's what you have to understand the DNA of a company, okay? Gabe Newell doesn't seem to be a greedy bastard, okay? Gabe Newell created Valve because he wanted to create a company where developers and coders, like a developer and coder paradise for developers and coders. If you look at the core people who are developing code at Valve, that's what they wanted to create. Okay, Gabe Newell got rich doing what he loved. God bless him. Okay, he managed to do something that most of us can't really do. We have to work for the man. He decided, I'm going to be the man and I'm going to have fun doing it. Good for him. Now, the shit that got built around Valve, the other shit, it kind of, they're about money, but the core of it, that's the DNA of the company. It's a place where developers and coders can go and come out with new, interesting things, blah, 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 whatever. Apple was created by Steve Jobs, who was one of the most evil, greedy sons of bitches on earth. Cutthroat as fuck, okay? He created that company. So why are you surprised that you, a smaller company, would try and punk out Apple whose DNA is Steve Jobs? This is the motherfucker who had a daughter with a woman, claimed the daughter wasn't his. It turned out it was his daughter. But for like 7-8 years, the mother was not getting child support, and the woman had to go on state aid. And her father was Steve Jobs, and he was wealthy back then. Steve Jobs is a piece of shit. He created a company that's a greedy, grasping, they will grab the smallest penny. So if Epic, look, listen, you start shit with Valve, they're like, yeah, okay, we'll cut you some slack. You start shit with Apple, and you act surprised that they're like, yeah, you dragged us to court. Okay, look, you think you can fuck us? Look, we'll fuck you back. And guess what? Our dick is bigger. Okay. And yes, look, Epic fucked with Apple. Apple fucked with Epic.
Effed them up.
But here's the thing. Apple's dick is bigger. And I'll explain why I said that business-wise. Because Apple has like a good, Kenoshi, would you say like 30% of the market is Apple products? Of like smartphone market is Apple products?
Yeah, they have a pretty, large chunk of, as a company, they have a large chunk within the iPhone market, or the smartphone market.
Yeah, so of the smartphone market, 30% of it is iPhones. Now think about this. 30% of like tens of billions, okay, of people it's probably more than that. But like billions of billions of people with iPhones, and Epic shot themselves in the ass trying to start some shit with people who have billions of people using their device that are hooked into their network, that ecosystem. Epic did that. Epic started that shit. No one forced them to start that shit. They started it. So now they got to pay the price. That's just how it is. Look, I don't go up to a big, huge, muscle-bound motherfucker and punch him in the face unless I know I can knock him the fuck out. Okay? And I'm willing to take the pain in the fight. Now, you don't start shit unless you can finish it. Epic started some shit, realized, oh wait, we can't finish this. Just because they punked out Valve, they thought they could punk out Apple. Apple ain't Valve. Okay? Okay? You can't punk out Apple. You cannot punk out Apple. You can't. Okay? And Epic had to pay the price. They had to pay that price. And, I don't feel sorry for them. Everyone's like, oh no, that's terrible. Look, you shouldn't start shit.
For me, I was about to say that I'm wondering, Epic, are you gonna know when to stop? Because you trying to fight the other 9 L's that you took, it's just gonna make you get more black eyes.
You know, and just to show, and just to add insult to injury, Apple's like, oh yeah, and you can't use our app store. So basically, Epic just cut themselves off of a huge ecosystem. And I guarantee Google might do the same thing. They might say, you know what? You can't be on our app store. Because ultimately, Epic needs an app store to get their games out. Google and Apple don't need Epic. Epic needs Google and Apple.
I'm just wondering, is Epic gonna finally learn to take an L? Though, if anything, that doesn't mean Apple's off the hook with how they try to use non-standardized
No,
equipment.
they're both greedy ass companies, but I mean, look, here's the thing. Both of them are full of shit. But I'm just saying, just from a practical standpoint, you don't shit where you eat. You don't start shit with the. Okay, it's like this. Okay, I have a group. I have like a farmers market that supplies the food for one of my locations, like the vegetables and shit like that. It's literally like 50% cheaper than when I was using Cisco. Okay, why would I go to that farmers market to the people who supply me and fuck with them and then act surprised when they cut me off? That's what Epic did. They're like, yeah, well, I'm gonna start some shit with you. Apple's like, okay, take us to court. Okay, all right. Made us pay out all this money to our lawyers. All right, okay. You want to fuck with us? All right, okay. Okay, look, okay. We'll see who can screw each other hardest.
I'm wondering when Epic's gonna learn to stop, because they're just gonna hit themselves harder in the orbs when this is all over.
No,
at least going between Apple and them.
At this point, Apple is looking to stick something up their pooter, and that's all I'm going to say on it. And
so,
you know, like, I don't like Apple.
Both of them, in comparison, have managed to. Yeah, I was about to say, both of them, in comparison, have nothing on Blizzard and Activision.
Look, I don't like Apple. Okay, what they did, like having proprietary tech for their shit, so that you have to buy their earbuds, you have to buy their charger, you have to buy their headphone. Like, I don't like that, but they're a business. They're not a nonprofit. Apple's job is to make money off of their products. That's what they're supposed to do. So It might not be right, it might not be pro-consumer, but that's their job. Like, Tim Cook's job is to find ways to make money off of their products. You know, Epic is doing what they have to do as a private business, as a private capitalist business, to make money. But Activision Blizzard fucking over their employees, not paying people. Bobby Kotick giving himself a $185 million bonus this year. Simultaneously, for year over year, Bobby Kotick has given himself a bonus, while his employees can't fucking afford to eat out of the company cafeteria. Let me explain something to you, okay? I am an AmeriCorps alumnus. I was a part of City Year for 2 years, okay, back to back. I made like $12,000 a year. It wasn't even a real salary; it was a stipend for the 2 years I was in City Year. I could afford, and I was in City Year DC, which is Washington DC, which is not a cheap place to work. I could afford to eat lunch at various restaurants around where my office building was and where I was working every day if I so chose. Okay, I could afford to do that. When you're making the type of money that Activision employees should be making, and you can't afford to eat in your company cafeteria, that's some fucking bullshit. I'm sorry. And then on top of that, you've got a hostile work environment. You've got people being actively hostile towards people of color and women of color. So Activision Blizzard, hands down, fuck them. They're the most evil. They're the a-hole of the week.
Yeah, I agree with you. Apple, you're greedy, but we get you. Epic, you're being stupid. Shut up. Activision Blizzard, either you shut the beep up and stop treating your workers like beep, or people are gonna leave you like like they leave, like most people are leaving the alliance for the whole. And I feel dirty saying that.
Yeah, I think
So
I think
excuse me.
I think all the people at the top need to be fired. Bobby Kotick, all the people at the top, they need to go. Bobby Kotick had a good run. He's made at least $1 billion over the last 5, 6, 7 years. But it's someone else's turn now. It's time. It's time. It's time for a change into the guard. I think Bobby Kotick should retire, go someplace else, do something else. Because at this point, like it's just it's time to change. They need to change the guard. There needs to be a change into the guard. But that's my own personal opinion. So that's the end of the podcast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe. Anything you guys want to pimp out for you? Yes, we did talk the direct Kirby Lover 03, but if you want to, you can join our cast on Wednesday, which is at 7:30 p.m. to...
I hope you make it.
Okay, you can join us next week and talk about it. Or you can make a video about it. I mean, if you want to talk about it next week, that'd be great. You already did? You already talked about it?
Yeah, I already made a video about it. I mean, it was kind of rushed, but...
All right.
But I did. I love the direct.
Yeah, I thought overall it was pretty good. I thought it was better than the one they had at this year's E3.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought it was better than this year's E3 direct.
I kind of agree with you.
As a matter of fact, I think the September direct should have been swapped with the E3 direct. But that's just my own personal opinion. But anyway, that's the end of this video. Rate, comment, share, subscribe. Thank you for joining. Anything you want to pimp out, Kirby Lover? You want to pimp out your new video?
Oh yeah. Wait, what do you mean pimp out?
You know, tell people about it so people who watch the podcast can watch your video.
Oh yeah, so see my video at TS Nintendo Gamer and there's a few games that were really hype worthy. Some were just cool, like the Square Enix one.
Yeah, that looked kind of cool.
Like the racing one.
That looked cool too. I was kind of interested. I'm like, I don't really care about Chocobo, but I wonder what other characters, Final Fantasy characters, they have in there. Obviously, they'll have Cloud and Sephiroth. Save it for Wednesday. But, I know this is going to sound bad, but I would have loved to have seen. I hope they bring some Final Fantasy 6 and 5 characters to there, and 4 like Cecil. Mog, Bart, Ferris, Lena, Galuf, Kane, Terra, Locke, Edgar and Sabine, Strago, Umaro, Shadow. Anyway, yeah, Chocobo GP looks cool. I'm hoping that it's good. So yeah, anything you want to pimp out, Kenoshi? I know you streamed the direct, so you want to pimp that out, Kenoshi?
I streamed the direct. You know, you can watch the replay at on my channel. Thinking about doing a podcast. Not sure what day. It'll probably be only a couple times a month until I, you know, have a set format. But you know, probably either like Tuesday or Thursday. I might stick to Thursdays.
That's cool, man. Yeah. If you need a guest, I'm always available. At night, at night, anytime at night, I'm good. All right. This is Mr. Red Fox. I had 2 videos I uploaded this week. One was basically me talking about how ActRaiser Renaissance is actually pretty good. I mean, you know, like for modern Square Enix, it's pretty good. Of course, I would have preferred a idealized 16-bit format like the Messenger. But I mean, like, you can't expect stuff like effort like that from Square Enix these days. You just you can't. But so for having lowered expectations, it's pretty good. And I have another video where I talked about what's it called? My thoughts on the September 23rd Direct. And I might do another video tomorrow talking about Castlevania, the Advance Collection, which it should be just called Castlevania Advance plus another one, because they added Rondo of Blood. So
Did they update the sound or something? Because it doesn't sound like it's coming from a
emulation.
It doesn't sound like it's coming from a GBA. Sounds like it's coming from a Super Nintendo.
Which game are you playing?
I'm playing the first one that showed up on the because when you emulate GBA games, yeah. When you emulate GBA games,
they're in mono.
It still sounds like it's coming from a GBA.
I mean,
I must have updated the audio.
I think M.2 just maybe use stereo, because if you use like the GBA had stereo, and had a decent sound chip. It's just you had to put some work into utilizing it. It was like the Sega Genesis sound chip, because like some games that were poorly ported, like Super Mario Advance on the GBA, does not sound as good as the SNES version. Legend of Zelda doesn't sound as good as the Super Nintendo version on the Game Boy Advance. There's games that have Super Nintendo originals, and the Game Boy Advance port doesn't sound quite as good. But it just, then there are other games that sound great on the GBA, like Golden Sun. Golden Sun sounds great.
Yeah, it does.
So
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't like Golden Sun that much because of its game design, but the combat's good.
Oh man, I might have to. No, I'm joking. Well, that's your opinion. I love Golden Sun. I wish that they would bring that franchise back.
I like it.
But then again, I'm an RPG fanboy, so any RPG, I'm pretty much gonna be down for it, unless it's just like you have to do a lot to make me hate an RPG these days.
You like Undertale?
I even like Undertale. I think the thing about Undertale is that Undertale has been so hyped by people who like it that if you go into it with that same level of hype, you're going to be disappointed. But if you go into Undertale thinking it's just a game, and then you play it and you get into it and you play it through once the way it's not meant to be played, and you realize, oh man, I can't just reset it. It won't let me. I have to finish this run and then start a new run. Then you realize that Undertale's pretty good. Although I don't really consider it to be an RPG in the classical sense. Undertale's more like an experience game versus an actual RPG. But I enjoy it nonetheless. So anyway, that's the end of the podcast. Pimped out what I want to pimp out. You guys pimped out what you want to pimp out. So now it's time to finish things off and wrap things up. So if you want to reach the cast, you can reach me at mrredfoxbsbuster@gmail.com. You can reach me on you can at me on Twitter at mrredfox91. You can reach me in the Discord on the Discord link in the
description below. So anything you want, you guys want to give your links to your channels if you want to? Yes, no, maybe so. I don't got much going on, so I really shouldn't link mine. So sorry.
All right, Kenoshi. Isn't your channel called Kenoshi Abominito?
Yeah, it's called Kenoshi Abominito.
All right, and TS Nintendo Nerd. TS Nintendo Gamer. So that's the end of the cast. Rate, comment, subscribe, peace, and good night. And
don't forget to hype